Hi there. This lesson is about improvising. And so we're going to be improvising using the half note in 2/4 meter and the dotted half note in 6/8 meter. So in 2/4 meter, we can use a quarter note and 2/8 notes and the half note. And I'm going to do a pattern in 2/4 meter as an example, but do not do what I do. I want you to think up your own, and we will improvise for about 8 beats. So here's my pattern. Do, do, doody do, do, doody doody. Okay, your turn. Ready, go. Okay, I'll do another pattern in 2/4 meter. All right, here's the pattern. Do, do, doody doody do. Okay, so now 8 beats. Your turn, go. All right, great. So now let's do one in 6/8 meters. So now we have more of a feeling of a sway beat. We're going to use dotted quarter notes for do, do. We will use do for the dotted half note. Do da die for the 3/8 notes, and then for the long short sound of quarter note 8th note, we will do die, do die. Okay, here I go. I'll do 8 beats. All right, you listen and make yours different than mine. Do da die, do da die, do 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 do. Okay, there's 8 beats. Your turn, go. All right, great. I'll do another one in 6/8 meter. Here it is. Do da die, do da die, do 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 die, do die, do. Okay, your turn for 8 beats. All right, you're improvising. Wonderful, great job.